Everyone, today I'm going to show you how to cook a Vacio. It's more of a traditional cut of meat that is a lot more popular in Latin American countries like South America, like Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, those kinds of countries. Growing up, this was a favorite in our house. I grew up in Paraguay. And so today I'm going to show you guys what it is and also how I would normally cook it. There's a couple of different ways you can go about it, but I will show you just my personal preference, the one that I would choose most often. So to start with, I'm just going to cut this open. So it's a rather large cut of meat. That is something I would recommend more for a gathering, or if you're gonna have quite a few people coming over, because it'll feed a good amount of people. And I usually start by trimming it up a little bit, not too much, but just things like this silver skin here, or membrane here. Because if you leave those on there, you're going to be chewing for a very long time. I'm coming a little bit closer for this part too. So yeah, you basically just want to get as much of that membrane away from this lower portion here, or the slimmer portion. And try your best not to get any meat with it, although that is next to impossible. Oh, don't stay zoomed in on just the meat for that long. On it that we will need to remove to ensure that we have a good eating experience. Some of these portions are a little bit difficult to get to without getting meat. So as you can see here, there's some fat, but then underneath there, you have this very chewy silver skin that I like to get rid of as much as possible. I will leave some of it on. In this area here, that's going to stay kind of white like that, with the fat and the silver skin being there, or membrane. Not sure what it's technically called, but yeah, so this stuff is going to stay here. It will be a little bit chewier, but I like to leave it on some portions and clean up the rest of it. It does give some additional flavor to those portions. And then you flip it around, and essentially the same thing again. You just trim off all these bits of membrane and silver skin, and you basically, again, you just try your best to leave as much as the meat on there. I'm not trying to take off any fat here, I'm just trying to take off this white membrane here. Wherever there's fat, I try my best to leave it on, as it makes up a big portion of the flavor that this meat has, which is very good. Okay, so for this part, just to kind of explain what this is, so we have two muscles here. We have what is called a bottom sirloin flap, which is this portion here. Some would also call it a skirt steak. If it is called a skirt steak, it's a very wide portion of it. It's kind of like a skirt steak. not the traditional slim inside skirt though. I think maybe some people even call it the outside skirt, not 100% sure. And then you have a layer of fat and membrane that separates that from this other muscle. So if you look closer, you can see how these grains go in one direction, and then here the grain goes in a different direction. And this is your traditional flank, essentially. That's what you have here, is just your basic flank steak, and then here you have the bottom sirloin flap. This is the Vacio. Even if you have it without the traditional flank, this would be called a Vacio if you were to go South America and that's what you ask for. That's what you would get. This is a flank steak in the more traditional sense that overlaps the bottom sirloin flap. This is how they cut it at the butcher that I buy it from, and this is how I prefer it. So this is how I cook it. Now you can do a couple different things. As you can see, it's very thin here. If you want to, this is absolutely something that can be cut into steaks. I always leave it like this though. On rare occasions, I will take the flank off of the bottom sirloin flap, which is also called the bavette. I will take it off of there occasionally, but very rarely. So I'm going to season this up now with my favorite seasoning. If I can open it up. So now I'm going to season this with my favorite seasoning. If any of you are curious, it looks like that. I have this imported from Paraguay by people who come and visit us whenever that happens, or whenever family members go there. I have not found it anywhere available around here. And you can use salt, pepper, garlic. I've done that many times. It tastes fantastic. This one has more of those flavors that I grew up with that I enjoy. So I prefer this one. There's a salt and garlic and cumin and rosemary and cilantro and some bay leaves. I think that's about most of the spices that are in this salt and this seasoning. But along those lines in terms of flavors. And you want to get the other side just as evenly. Now preferably, I would do this at least a day ahead, or in the morning if I'm going to be making this for supper. This is going to go on as soon as I'm done seasoning it, because I just do not have time to wait today. So you definitely get more flavor out of it if you season it well ahead of time and let the salt penetrate the meat. Another thing to keep in mind is, so you have one portion that is very slim over here. Depending on how slim it is, sometimes these portions will be wider. I would leave it whole like this. Traditionally, I would just leave the whole thing like this. Anything that flaps around, I might wrap into itself, and then it would go on to a big skewer, and then it would sit on a rotisserie or some charcoal. Today, I'm just going to be making this over my on my pellet smoker, and I'm going to be taking off this very slim portion here, as it is a very, very flavorful meat that will dry out quickly if I let it cook for the same amount of time as this thicker portion here. So that's what's going to be this portion of the video. And then cooking it, I do it rather hot and fast. 380 degrees Fahrenheit. I will even crank it up hotter on occasion, depending on if I'm in a rush or not. It is, like I said, it's a skirt steak essentially. Not really, but it is. And a flank steak, so both cuts of meat that cook really fast. So no need to go low and slow with something like this. But yeah, we're going to go put it on the smoker. Today I have it set to 425 just because I'm really trying to crack this one out and eat. And yeah, I will show it to you guys once I am done. I'm going to shoot for kind of a medium. Sometimes I'll go medium rare. Sometimes I go medium well. You can do well done. I don't prefer doing well done on this. So stay tuned. So we're half hour into this cook here. I'm going to flip this around. As you can see, it's starting to get a nice little crust going there. And this guy here has been on for about a half hour. And it's going to probably get pulled off now if I look at it. Yeah. So as for this one here, we're sitting at around 140. Nope. We're sitting at around just below medium rare still. So this has to go another half hour for sure. And I flipped it around, so we're going to leave it on there for another half hour and then it should be done. So here we have the finished product. See what our temps are sitting at. So we're sitting at around 155, so depending on who you ask, it's about a medium well. It's a little on the well side of what I like, but that's just gonna have to be okay for today. Here we have that very thin point that I mentioned earlier that can overcook very easily. I took that off a little earlier so you can see it never really got quite the crust. Often I will sear it off. I just did not have the time for it today. That's what our final product is. So keeping in mind that our grain on this short little strip is running this way, the way we want to serve it is in such a way where the cut is against the grain. So I usually just go at an angle to what the grain is, which ends up resulting in a very enjoyable and easy to chew steak. As you can see, this is very well done. And this is excellent on its own. It's excellent if you want to put it on tortillas, you want to make fajitas with it, a wrap, all sorts of things. Very, very versatile. That is so, so delicious. Next, we're going to cut into our big piece here. That is so juicy. So this is how I would cut this portion here. And then generally serve it like that. So you can see that it kind of goes against both grains as the grain slightly turns on this portion. And then your final cut would just go like so. And you would eat the piece like that. Oh, it's hot. But it is very soft. The only chewiness in this meat you're gonna get will be from the tendons that not tendons, the membranes and silver skin and such things. Other than that, it is a very soft meat. But all right. Well, as you can see, this is an extremely juicy and flavorful cut of meat. Well guys, that's going to be it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys learned something new. Main reason I made this video is because I get asked frequently what Vacio is, and rather than just tell people, oh, it's flank, which yes and no, a lot of people would call it flank. It's not just your traditional flank steak. It's quite different from it. So that's just why I figured I'd make this video so that you guys could learn something about it. Thanks for watching and stay tuned.